Welcome to episode number 79 of Hoop Talk Fanatics. I am here with Trent Markwith to recap a full slate of games last night, and Trent will give his thoughts on the AP Top 25 uh, and also give his thoughts on how the biggest games this upcoming weekend will go. So welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So my first question is, what were your overall thoughts on how the games went last night?
Well, I mean, the SEC continued, their dominance in the SEC ACC challenge. Aside from, Duke picking up a big win over Auburn, who many had seen as kind of the number one team in the nation, even though they weren't ranked number one, and then Kansas dropped one as well. So we're probably going to have a new number one. But yeah, the SEC just continues to prove that they're, arguably the top conference in the country right now. Iowa State picked up a really good win over Marquette as well, in a matchup of number five and number six teams in the country. Um, Iowa State at Hilton Coliseum is a really difficult place to play, so it's going to be hard to come in there and get a win, even with a really good team like Marquette. And it was good to see Creighton bounce back after losing a couple games in the previous week to beat number one Kansas on their home court. They got really high from three. Pop Isaacs stepped up. Um, Mississippi State picked up a big win as well. I mean, they blew out Pitt, who played really well in their MTE, and I think they ended up winning by over 30 points. But obviously, that Duke Auburn game was paid the most attention, and I was talking to some people um, before the game last night. I kind of, I've seen Auburn a good amount with them being down here in the southeast and very familiar with them, but I kind of felt like Duke had a chance to get over the hump after losing a couple of those big early season matchups. So they're young, they have a lot of freshmen, but now they've gotten experience in those games, and it helps that the game was at home. Isaiah Evans stepped up off the bench and gave him a big boost, and their other guys, of course, Cooper Flag played up to his ability, so that was big for them to get that top notch one. I thought.
I know Iowa State defeated Marquette 81-70. What were your thoughts on Keyshawn Gilbert and Josh Rice Jefferson?
Yeah, no, I mean, Iowa State's impressive. I think Tamin Lipsey's still been kind of dealing with some injury stuff. He hasn't looked like himself. But Keyshawn Gilbert is kind of taking the load, and he kind of has an alpha mentality, and he's tremendous getting downhill, can finish with either hand, kind of initiates contact, and he's been shooting it from three pretty efficiently as well. And Jefferson's a new guy. It can take some time for new transfers in TJ Otzelberger's system to get adjusted, but Jefferson is just it's been a pretty smooth transition, and he had a big double double. He can, he's physical, but he has some skill on offense as well. It seems like he knows who he is. He's taken threes in their earlier games, but last night he didn't really do that, and still had a really productive game. And they're going against a really good team with players like Cam Jones and others on Marquette. So that kind of just shows the ceiling of Iowa State's team, and they had some good battles in Maui as well.
What are your thoughts on the slate this upcoming Saturday, and what games are you going to keep an eye on?
I mean, I know there are a lot of ACC first conference games, and that's probably the conference that ACC and SEC are the two power conferences. I'm probably most familiar with, but you have an in-state Wisconsin top 25 battle with Marquette and Wisconsin early in the day. I think that's going to be really good. I think Kentucky and Gonzaga is out in Seattle, so Kentucky has a chance to bounce back after losing at Clemson, and Gonzaga has a chance to do the same after their MTE. I know Houston is playing as well. They struggled in their MT, so see how they get to you know, what adjustments they've made and how they're going to respond. But yeah, I'll probably be paying attention to those and a lot of those ACC matchups to kind of kick off conference play.
I'm actually going to be at the Big Five Classic at the Wells Fargo Center, and I don't know if you have paid attention to any of the Big Five schools, but what are your overall thoughts on the matchups?
I hadn't looked at the Big Five matchups much yet. Being from that area, I still try to pay attention to it each year. Villanova's kind of down, so that gives an opportunity for some of those low to mid major ish schools in the Big Five area to get some notable wins. Um, St. Joe's, I know has a lot of talent this year, but it seems like they've been a little inconsistent to start the year. LaSalle and Drexel, I just haven't really been able to watch much yet. But it's always fun to see how those Big Five matchups shake out because anyone can beat anyone in those. I feel like.
What games will you be attending this weekend and next week?
Mostly I'll probably have to go to a lot of high school games this weekend. There's some big tournaments, like high school events in the area. But hopefully, I can mix in some college games as well. I might try to go see Samford play on Sunday. I went and saw Chattanooga Lipscomb play this past Tuesday, and I'm trying to kind of sort out where I'm going to go next week. I know I have to go up to Knoxville for a high school thing at the end of the week, but midweek I might try to mix in a couple college games as well.
I know that you were at the Myrtle Beach Invitational and Charleston Classic, and what were your thoughts on those events?
Yeah, they were good. I love going to some of those MTs. I did the same thing last year. I did a day of the Myrtle Beach Invitational and a day of the Charleston Classic. So I did was at the first day of the Myrtle Beach Invitational. Um, MTSU beat Ohio in overtime. That was a fun game. Wright State kind of got an upset over Princeton. South Florida won. There were a lot of guys on that team I was familiar with, and then Bradley won as well, and they ended up winning the entire thing. I mean, they proved that they should be one of the better mid-major teams in the country. But the Missouri Valley is a really good conference. And then Charleston Classic, there were a couple surprises as well with Miami um, losing early, Oklahoma State the same way, and then Drake ended up coming out on top in that one, even after they had a coaching change with Darian DeVries getting the West Virginia job, and then Ben McCollum coming in from one of the top Division II programs in the country. But they were impressive the entire week. I really enjoyed watching the VCU Nevada game the day I was there. That ended up coming down to a game-winning shot, and a really good win for Nevada. But I like VCU's team as well. Um, but yeah, Drake, of course, Drake was the most impressive team down there. They came in as probably the underdog of them all, but came out on top. And Vanderbilt, got to see them as well. They have some local Atlanta kids I saw a lot in high school. They got a good win when I was there. They ended up playing Drake in that championship game, and they're kind of surprising people to start the year after being picked pretty low in the SEC.
What's the process like for you scouting teams throughout the games that you go to?
Yeah, with college games, it's kind of a different approach for me than with high school. Like when I'm going to college games, a lot of it is um, the schools that I work with helping them find high school players and transfers. I like to see them play just to see what their play style's like, what their roster looks like, just have a familiarity. So when I'm talking to them about potential players they might recruit. Um, I can have a good idea of what type of guys to recommend. Um, and I've started to do some work with NBA teams as well, so I think it's good to be at as many college games as possible. And like I've mentioned with some of these other games, seeing teams with guys that I'm familiar with that I watched a lot in high school to, see how they're transitioning to college. And again, see if I kind of had it right when I was watching them in high school and see, what's going well for them, why they're having success in college, or what went wrong and why they're struggling, just to, have a better idea and continue to learn about, where things are at. And of course, it varies from school to school, level to level, conference to conference. So I think it's important to watch as, I try to watch high major games, mid major games, low major, and non-division one games. I think, if I'm going to be talking to a lot of these schools about players they should recruit, then I need to be paying attention to all of those type of games and have a, decent idea of what it looks like. Um, but it's good. It's a lot of different stuff to watch, but it's always fun to watch good basketball regardless of the level.
I love the work that you're doing on Twitter and everything else, and I'll definitely have you back on soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.